in the morning.
Spend some time down the application.
Well, she'll walk in with me to I'll do PTO stuff, and Katie will run over and look at.
There you go. That's
yeah.
it.
Yep.
Out of the job.
Yeah. Well, next year she'll be in kindergarten. Right. Seeing her.
You're all set.
Yep.
Okay, are we ready? Did you see some of the stuff that came tonight?
I haven't seen a lot of it.
It just, well, he gave all the, okay. Entertain a motion to open zoning board of appeals.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Zoning board of appeal, take up case number 4161. Zoning Board of Appeal, Town of Stoughton, notice of public hearing. Public hearing will be held in the Town Hall, Conference Room B, Room 301, 3rd floor, 10 Pearl Street, on October 1st, 2015, 7:30 p.m. on the petition of Freeman Street Trust. Stephen Conley, trustee, case number 4161, for a special permit under the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw of 1970 as amended. Section 5D, Table of Use Regulations, Principal Use Residential. Item number 3, multifamily dwelling, provided that no more than 10% of the total number of units at any one time be units of 3 or more bedrooms. In order to razz and construct a new 3-story mixed-use building with first-floor commercial use and residential apartments above, located at 760 Washington Street. Further identified in Assessors Plan 54, Lot 285, in a central business district zone in said Stoughton. Any person desiring to receive further notice concerning this petition is provided by the general rules of the Zoning Board of Appeals should file a written request containing his or her name and address with the board. Petitioner's representative or any other persons desiring to be heard in this matter should appear at time and place designated. Sherman Upro, Chairman, was in the Stoughton Journal September 11th and September 18th, 2015. And I have a few pieces of correspondence. October 1st, Stephen Conley, trustee, Freeman Street Trust, 1859 Dorchester Ave, Dorchester, Mass. 02124. It's in regards to case number 4161, 760 Washington Street. Dear Mr. Conley, as per the Zoning Board of Appeals, Rules Number 8, interested persons attached, you'll find letters from citizens requesting any information being submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals to also be forwarded to them. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact the zoning office at 781-344-6070. Thank you. I thank you in advance for your cooperation. Oh, I didn't know I signed that. Sherman Upro, Chairman. I.E.N. Parsons, President of Freeman Street Corporation and owner of 760, 770 Washington Street and 2 through 10 Freeman Street, give Freeman Street Trust and Stephen Conley, trustee, authorization to file a Board of Appeal application for a special permit in above reference property. And Parsons. This is from Jeffrey M. Lovely, Counselor at Law, 6 Railroad Avenue, P.O. Box 510, Foxborough, Mass. Stoughton Zoning Board of Appeals, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass. Regards to case 4161, 610,
I gave her
6 through 10
type
Freeman
brief
Street,
on the Signed variance. I didn't make a copy of that for you.
760, 770 Washington Street. Dear board members, I have recently been retained by Cheryl L. Hamilton of 757 Pleasant Street, Stoughton, Mass. to represent her interest with regard to case number 4161. Ms. Hamilton owns the directly abutting property, 1418 Freeman Street. That property includes a small jewelry clock repair business, Unique Jewelers, as well as a separate single-family home, 18 Freeman Street, where Mrs. Hamilton's son and grandchildren reside. I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, but want to outline some of my client's concerns as early in the process as possible. I'm informed that my client has not been contacted by the applicant to discuss the project. My client appreciates that an improvement to the current building at 760 Washington Street will likely benefit the town and the neighborhood, but cannot support at this time, and at this time opposes the proposal shown in the subject plans. Impact on Unique Jewelers. Unique Jewelers is a long-term tenant at 14 Freeman Street, relies heavily on the availability of on-street parking and visibility from Stoughton Center. The proposed plan, which intrudes into the town-owned land, will reduce or eliminate on-street parking vital to this space and will block the view of the building facade and signage from Stoughton Center. My client requests that the plan be revised so that no on-street parking is lost and the store remains visible from the center. General as shown in the earlier plan by the proponent. Further, if the project is ultimately permitted, we need some assurance that demolition and construction noise, traffic, parking, etc. will not unduly harm the business. Vibration and dust are major concerns to the tenant's clock repair and testing operations, which require a dust and vibration-free environment. If permitted, construction and building activities must comply with, at a minimum, with zoning article 11(1) environmental performance standards. Impact on 14 Freeman Street. 14 Freeman Street is physically connected to the existing building to be demolished, and we request that the demolition be engineered carefully to avoid damage to the structure, part of which has a full basement and part which is built on a slab. We also request that drainage and possible oil, gasoline spill containment from the adjacent parking area be carefully considered to avoid contamination to the groundwater infiltration into this presently dry basement. Additionally, the project proposes to add substantial vertical wall directly adjacent to 14 Freeman, which will loom over 14 Freeman and block snow circulation in the area already subject to substantial snow accumulation and result in additional snow loads to the roof at 14 Freeman Street. We request that this matter be carefully considered and incorporated into the snow removal plan if the project is approved. Impact on 18 Freeman Street. 18 Freeman Street is a single-family dwelling rented by my client's son and his family. This project will create additional snow removal and parking problems at 18 Freeman in addition to the towering over the property. Public safety. The plan appears to incorporate parts of both Washington Street, which may be a state highway layout, and Freeman Street. Setting aside the legal requirements, typically including the town meeting supermajority votes and the other board's approvals necessary to convey the land or a necessary easement to the applicant, the plan will narrow Freeman Street, the site of the Stoughton Fire Department, and thus used for emergency purposes. Reduce on-street parking, and users of the project and local businesses and residences may further narrow the travel lanes on Freeman Street if they park next to the new curb line and impede and alter snow removal from the neighborhood. Title issue. The subject parcel and my client's parcel are registered land and are subject to an agreement set forth in Norfolk County Registry District of the Land Court document number 32046 that existing drainage located on the subject parcels shall be continued for the benefit of the subject parcels. This provision prevents the applicant from altering any drainage without my client's assent, and we feel that existing drainage should be surveyed and shown on an existing conditions plan. In summary, we do not feel that the project meets Stoughton's local special permit requirements as it damages local businesses and residents and creates safety concerns. As noted, we are willing to meet with the applicant to discuss our concerns, and we will appear at your next hearing on the project. Please consider this request that I be notified of any other further hearings or actions on this matter. That notice may be sent to my email address, lovelylawr3000@aol.com. Thank you. Very truly yours, Jeffrey M. Lovely, Esquire. And I believe that's all the correspondence I have.
Motion to open case number 4161.
Second.
All in favor?
Motion to waive the reading in the butters and take the answers to question 9. Where's the page from?
Just want to look up before you do that.
Question 8, as written on the handout that we received tonight.
All in favor?
Second. Me.
Okay. Mr. Conley.
Yes.
Want to come up and explain what you'd like to do?
Good evening to all the board members tonight. And, thank you for considering this application. My name is Stephen Connolly. I'm the trustee for the Freeman Street Trust. And along with me tonight is Cheryl Tagayas, the architect for the project, here, and Paul Broadmerkel, who's the engineer. Before we present our building, I'd like to just give a brief history of the permitting on this site. It's been fairly extensive. Originally we applied for a special permit under the Schmood bylaw with the Stoughton Planning Board. That original building was a 4-story structure, 3 levels of residences totaling 21 units, and approximately 4,000 square feet of commercial space on the first floor. And we had some on-site parking. Originally it was 12 units, 12 spaces. During that process, we came to a consensus, both with the participating public and with the planning board, regarding the design of the building, the facade, along with the streetscape improvements, the sidewalks, and the illustrations that you'll see here with the tree plantings, things that were encouraged by the planning board that we incorporated into the design, along with the engineering, the drainage plans by Paul. And, so we had a consensus moving forward. Where we came to a dead end was we could not meet overall the parking requirement under the Schmood bylaw. We had to somehow attain off-site parking to total the proper number of units so that the planning board could approve the projects. We came to a dead end on that. And one of the main reason is that we had a preliminary design in a draft agreement that we were pursuing with the Stoughton Housing Authority for the property. The address is Pleasant Street, but it runs from Pleasant Street back to Freedman. And we were going to do parking improvements there and add spaces. And we were going to enter into a lease agreement to be able to count those spaces towards our development. There was a turnover at the Housing Authority with the director, and subsequent to that, the Housing Authority no longer had an interest in pursuing that agreement. So that we came to a dead end. So, since then, we've been thinking about ways that we could maintain this mixed-use concept that we believe is best for that site, with the location on the corner of Freeman and Washington Street, to bring life back to that parcel. That it's right now it's a vacant building, and he's, I believe, a Chinese restaurant with a fire there and things. So what we came up with was that we took a floor off the building. So now we have a three-story structure, and the unit count is down to 14, and the commercial space is down to around 3,000 square feet. And we have still have the on-site parking that we did with the original proposal. We took this plan and we gave it to the building commissioner, Thomas McGrath, who's here tonight, and we asked him to do a review under the Stoughton zoning bylaws and see how we conformed, if there was any issues with it. And the result is, why we're here tonight, is that we're looking for a special permit for a multifamily use in the central business district, and that our building meets all the dimensional requirements that a structure has to for the district. So In summary, that's where we're at right now, and I'd like to turn it over to Cheryl so she could give certainly a more detailed presentation of what we're looking to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. My name is Cheryl Tugayas. I'm a principal with Spalding Tugayas Architects in Boston. I've been working with the Connollys on this property for about 2 years now. And as Steve said, we had extensive review process with the planning board, and the design that you see here is substantially similar to what they saw with, as Steve said, the change in the stories of the building. This is a site plan to orient you. So we're here at Town Hall, and the site is here. There was a fire, as you all probably are aware, in the building several years ago, and the building is largely vacant. It's in an important location right in the central business district, and I know that there's been a lot of discussion about making improvements in the central business district. So this use and of the mixed use is consistent with the goals of the master plan that we reviewed in our process. The design of the building itself is consistent with the design guidelines that have been prepared. We had a lot of back and forth about the level of detail that we would put into the building. I'm going to flip this over now. Even the level of design review of the landscape was done at the planning board level. But first I want to point out that this light gray area here is within the property, but yet it's being treated as sidewalk. So for pedestrian safety is one of the concerns. The sidewalks as they exist are pretty narrow. So the first floor of the building and the building itself are set back anywhere from about 3 feet to about 7 feet on Washington Street and about 4 feet on Freeman Street, so that there's an increase in the pedestrian scale, which can be seen also in the three-dimensional rendering here. So that it's an improvement over what can be seen in your back on this sheet here, but in your packet there's a photograph of the sidewalk. It's quite narrow on Washington Street now. So that's the first thing. Then there's so the rear yard, so a front yard or a front of Freeman makes a rear yard here of 10 feet. So there's open space here that could be associated with the retail space that's on the first floor here. So if there's a restaurant or cafe or some sort of use like that as a tenant, then they could spill out into this part of the property without impacting the increased sidewalk along Washington Street. The landscape improvements were actually done at the suggestion of the planning board, while they are in the public realm, we had discussions about that, and as a making this a more desirable street and more desirable for the district in general. So the plant materials you can see here is a combination of trees and perennials that give color, and those are represented in the renderings here. And then a blow up of the corner of the intersection. So the Malcolm and Parsons Insurance Agency would occupy the corner with pedestrian activity associated with that use, and then there would be 2 retail spaces along Washington Street. The building is designed to have the kind of detail and character of the buildings that are in the district, including the one next to it. So there's a separation with a sign band separating the commercial space on the first floor with the residential spaces up above. There's large windows with detailed trim work around them to give character to the building.
There's nothing very sexy about what I did on this project. It's simply infrastructure. So I'm going to tell you that there is existing infrastructure within Washington and Freeman to service the building and our new use of the building. As Cheryl has said, perhaps the most salient feature of what we did here, is to occupy the parallel parking along the shoulder area, which gives you this beautiful aesthetic amenity to the Freeman Street approach to the project, which currently obviously is missing. If you look at these, here we are right here on Freeman Street, standing on Washington Street looking down Freeman. That's what we've got today, and this is what we're going to have in the future. It is not only the existing sidewalk you see here, but it's the setback of the building. The white portion you see here is the current pedestrian sidewalk, which is a part of the public way, but this gray portion, which virtually doubles the width of that sidewalk, is private property, which becomes a part of this area beneath the second-story overhang. So it really does essentially bring out a really attractive amenity to which is currently just not there. And the only way to do this sort of thing is to make a commitment and move ahead to start redeveloping the downtown area. It's going to take private monies to do this. It has to be done in a way that's financially attractive to developers to do it. We have a building here that has been downsized by an entire story. It has a commercial element on the first, to the front, both Freeman and Washington, and some parking beneath the building. It's a very reasonable proposal for the property. I don't think that, and we've looked at different ways of doing this during the early stage, and I just don't see a better way of getting this thing done. It's not a very attractive situation what we have out there right now. This is a good way to jumpstart the redevelopment of the downtown Stoughton. So I'm hopeful that you can see your way clear to moving ahead with the project, because all the elements are there. The infrastructure is there. It just needs to be allowed to move ahead. Thank you.
I have one question to ask you before going further. Reading what you're looking for on your special permit. When I read when I read this is what I'm looking for. When I read into the minutes, you look, it's 760 to 770 Washington Street and 2 to 10 Freeman Street. And what you're asking for a special permit for is 760 Washington Street. I don't know if can we do that? Where it's actually he's taking up from 760 to 770 in Freeman Street. And we're only looking for 760 for a special permit.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the building the site is one parcel of land with one map and lot number. It just happens to have multiple addresses. Isn't that correct, Paul?
Yes, it is one piece.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
just under 12,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It's one piece.
I just didn't want to try to do something and we're
Yeah.
100% wrong. Okay.
Give the abutters map.
I'm sorry?
Give the abutters map.
Yeah. Maybe. No. Yes. shows it as one piece.
You have the, I don't have my copy of the advertisement.
Oh,
It also identifies it as Assessor's Plan 54, Lot 285. So as long as you're only talking about Lot 285 here, then you've got that identification in your notice. Plan 54, yeah.
okay.
Is that the, this is the whole piece, right? This 11,961
Right.
square foot parcel?
Right.
Okay, we'll continue. I just wanted to make sure beforehand. Okay. You have anything else you want to add on? Questions? Questions? Sean? Marguerite?
Can you, I'm trying to just make sure I understand what the first floor is going to look like as compared to the second and the third. So the parking is going to have, some of it's going to have the building hanging over it,
Right.
and some of it will not, right?
Right.
Okay, can you just talk us through that a little bit more?
Sure, so this is Freeman Street and this is Washington Street. The access to the parking would come from Freeman here. This would be underneath the building. So these parking spaces here are underneath the building, and then these are also underneath. And then these 4 and 1 space are outside the building.
Okay. And,
The main entrance to the residential is here.
yep,
And then the entrances to the commercial are off of Freeman and off of Washington.
and there's 3 commercial
Right.
units?
Well, this is an option of 1 or 2.
Okay.
But this is definitely for the insurance, and this is desired to be retail.
And
The lobby here is from the parking as well, so.
so they could access there, yep. And then what are you demolishing right now that's currently there?
It pretty much takes up the whole site. Paul,
That's all going.
Actually, that's right here.
I can grab
But I can't, I only see the front, I never see what's back here. How much is here now?
The lot is, it's all structure. It goes all the way to the back. There's actually a loading, there's an easement on the back end coming off Porter
Coming
Street.
from, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
see
The building
that.
goes all the way to the back.
I think in the site plan package, yeah, in the site
So
plan
sheet-
package
Sheet 2
here,
in the site plan package, or it's up here
Yeah.
as well now.
Yeah,
So the existing building occupies the entire site except for a very small amount at the rear. The portion that has the fire is in this section here.
so they still need to actually do that demolition work?
Right.
And that's currently connected to the neighboring building, is that right?
No,
I doubt the structures are connected, but they are adjacent to one another.
So there is some sort of a separation in the walls?
At this juncture here, yeah.
Yeah, this one, there's a separation between the two buildings.
It's a small separation.
It's very small, it's not something you could pass through, it's just inches.
Yeah.
Separated.
The same applies here, just a very small amount.
but the proposed plan is set back from Piazza's building a substantial dimension, yeah.
10 feet.
Yeah.
A little over 10 feet, I should say, yeah.
From the Hamilton building that we had them,
No, the Hamilton is here.
and this
right,
Hamilton,
that's
yeah.
what I'm,
Yeah, that,
Yeah, no, there's not a setback there except for tolerance, which would be in inches.
That would be,
so you'll still is it the existing separation that you're looking to
Yes.
maintain?
Yeah.
Right,
But you're going higher than what's there now?
correct. We're proposing right now that the 3 stories at 35 feet.
And currently, it's just a 1-story structure that's there. now.
Correct.
So the 10-foot rear setback from Washington Street is met how?
My understanding is that we could select which street would be considered the front when we're on an intersection, so that we would select Freeman Street to be the front, so the rear yard is here, at 10 feet here.
I thought those streets are considered frontage.
Well, the zoning code says that when you have a corner lot, you need to maintain 2 front yard setbacks. But as far as establishing the rear yard, it gives the applicant the choice to identify one of those 2 front yards as the front, opposite which will be the rear. So I agree with what Cheryl has done. They could have said, they could be meeting the zoning by having a 0 side yard setback between the proposed building and Piazza's building and maintain the 10 feet on the other side. But the plan works out much better as far as the parking and, you know, that you've got some dimensional limitations of, you know, the parking. Just the plan works out much better, you know, the way it is.
Okay. So there's another provision of the dimensional requirements that I also was wondering about with regards to the number of units that you have. So in the zoning code, it's section 6G3.
I think it's G4.
Yes, G4, sorry, Tom. So what's your square footage for your open space right now?
Open space.
We're not required to have any, 4.8% of it is open space.
I mean, just, is it more than 4,000 square feet? I doubt
No.
that, because you're only at 11, right? Trying to do the quick
No.
math.
About 600 square feet.
Okay. And you have 14 proposed residential units? So I guess I'm trying to understand how you meet that requirement of 6G4.
I don't believe 6G4 applies to the CBD district.
Well, if you let me step in, I think G4 does apply. I mean, it doesn't say that it. I'm not sure that it should apply to the CBD district, but the CBD is not exempt from this requirement. My interpretation of this requirement is that what it states is multifamily units with 2 or more bedrooms, when the total number of dwelling units exceeds 12, there should be recreation area proposed, 500 square feet for 2-bedroom units and 1,000 square feet for 3-bedroom units, but it exempts 1-bedroom units. This proposal, there's a total of 14 units, which is obviously more than 12, but as 6 of them are 1-bedroom units that don't need to have this open space. It seems to me that a reasonable interpretation of the intent here would be that that in this particular case, this section, you know, doesn't apply, and you know, it's kind of an illustration of. I think I'm making an interpretation that about what I think the intent is, and I think the intent in the zoning code here is when you have a large multifamily development where you can expect school age or older children living, you know, in 2- and 3-bedroom units, you should provide some recreational space. But the fact that this could be this project, which is 6 1s and 8 2s, we could say that it's not meeting this regulation, but a 12-unit project of all three bedrooms would be exempt, because it's not more than 12. So I think it's reasonable, considering the location in the central business district and the relatively small size of units, and the fact that the units with the requirement for the open space are less than 12. I think it's perfectly reasonable to interpret it the way, you know, I'm interpreting it. Respectfully, I can understand the other side, of this argument, but I've opined, here, and that this is not an impediment, that this doesn't constitute a violation of the dimensional requirements.
I mean, I obviously respect
Yeah.
the opinion of the building inspector. I guess as I read it, I clearly felt that it applied, so I could see how it could easily be open for interpretation and create a potential situation for you down the road. I don't know if you've looked at it, thought about it at all. I don't want to create a problem for you. I think I agree with you that we'd like to try to find a way to do something with this site. But I would want to try to have you avoid issues down the road if possible, too. Because as I went through the zoning bylaw and looked at your development, this jumped out at me as something that I thought you needed to address. I don't think it's that hard to address, to be perfectly honest, but I think it's something you would need to address. Either you could ask for a variance or some other thing to do here. But, I would feel like it would be something you'd want to address. Have you thought about that at all?
It was mentioned to me today. We certainly haven't come to a decision on it.
You want me to take another shot at it?
Go right ahead. Yeah. Sure.
The bylaw was adopted in 1970. In the 70s, Stoughton had a fair amount of RM property available for development. If you apply this segment to a Nosebrook or a Copperwood or something of that nature that's outside the CBD, then they have space for that type of usage. If you go to the central business district where the minimum lot size is 2,500 square feet, and you try to apply a 500 square foot requirement per bedroom, you couldn't have more than 5 bedrooms, or you would be using up the whole lot for open space, which means you'd have no building. In this case, we have 8 two-bedrooms at 500 square feet apiece. That's 4,000 square feet. To leave that as open space means 1/3 of our lot has to go undeveloped. So it just doesn't seem to logically fit in the CBD. It's perfect for RM. Stoughton really doesn't have any more RM left, but back when there was some, they had room for that sort of thing, but it was never in the CBD.
I mean, I see a similar provision later in the bylaw when it talks about converting non-residential structures to residential structures. And that ability to do that exists in more than just an RM district. I don't see how that necessarily, that language as I look at it, Tom, I don't know that I think it could support an alternative interpretation to this language. It's not exactly the same. I agree with you that there's a lot of oldness to our bylaw. And there's some updating that needs to be done, but I would rather that you get all the zoning relief you need so there isn't a problem for you with regards to that. And I would encourage you to maybe look at that a little bit more in your project and see if there's anything more you might want to consider doing to address it.
To meet the requirement the way that they're presenting it, I know that I can't, because I'm not going to be able to come up with that amount of square footage. I'd like to move forward with the application that we have tonight. In reading the bylaw, I did read it, read it a few times actually to try to get a grasp of it. I think that it mentions dwelling units. It doesn't mention buildings at the beginning, and then it says whether it's one building or a succession of buildings, essentially, if you have more than one. And it seems to me that the threshold is that if you get above 12 two-bedrooms in the development, then you have to start providing the open space. Our total is 8, so I feel like that we comply I agree with McGrath on that. And again, like Tom, I can see how you could read that. Somebody could say, well, no, it's 12 total, but my reading of it, I'm comfortable with the way that we have it presented.
When this became clear, to us, after this, meeting was scheduled, the alternative, here are three. And one is to go ahead and ask the board to consider this not a violation and ask for the special permit. The second alternative would be to make two of the two units that are currently 2 bedrooms into 1-bedroom units, so that you'd have a total of 12 units.
I mean, opposite that?
Pardon? Well, I guess, yeah, maybe I confused that. You could
66.
redesign the building and make fewer bigger units, so you wouldn't have more than 12, and that wouldn't apply. Or, you could ask for a variance, and, the applicant has chosen to take the first, the first alternative, and, that's where we are. And I don't know whether you want to reconsider that, Stephen, but I appreciate the fact that the building, it was once contemplated, as a 21-unit building, is now reduced to a 14-unit building. I can understand why an applicant wouldn't want to further reduce the unit count. But, that's for the board to decide.
Okay. How, the abutters letter that was read in tonight, and it looked like it was just provided today, so I don't know if you've really had a chance to look at it. Have you, and do you have any response? Or, I'm not sure if anyone's here. It appeared that nobody was here from.
I did not see it. I do know that during our design and our discussions for the 4-story that we didn't get that correspondence. I did meet, I think it must have been the son, well, during the application process. And he was talking about, he did mention the snow load, and maybe that would cause a problem with the higher building. Also, he was also looking to see if we'd buy the place. So, there was kind of a dual discussion there, which we decided that the configuration of the property didn't really help us in our development, so we declined that. But I haven't heard many of those things from before, about dust or anything like that. I mean, construction is construction. You have to have those provisions put in anyway. There's a certain way you have to build things, especially in a tight site like that. So a lot of the things that he's talking about are going to be implemented with the construction. The drainage issues, essentially we're taking the drainage and we're containing that parking lot and we're going out onto Washington Street. So I think, if anything, it'll be an improvement for him.
What question rose to mind as I was listening to it is, what, besides the elimination of one of the stories, have you done differently to this site from what was proposed with the Schmood application?
Essentially, we took the floor off, and we felt that we wanted to stay with both architecturally, and this went through engineering review a number of times too during the process.
Well, that's what I wanted to know as well.
So we wanted to stay with what people were comfortable with, even though there wasn't an official vote, but there was an understanding when this left off, that we were at a point that if we could get the off-street parking necessary that we had built, we wanted to maintain those standards, which we have.
Could I do the drainage thing?
Sure.
Just to add to that, we are also concerned about the drainage, because today on that site there isn't any. It's completely lacking of drainage. So our driveway and parking lot area is completely drained within the limits of our own property into a catch basin here, which discharges into what we refer to as an oil gas separator. That's required by MWRA. So this entire area here, this low-lying area, is treated by the oil gas separator, which goes into the sanitary sewer, and the overflow from that drainage goes back out into the street. There's nothing there right now. There's no drainage whatsoever. So what we have done is upgrade the entire site so that 100% of our site is drained properly.
So with the exception of 40Bs, I mean, typically the zoning board doesn't get involved at this level of detail, and it's something that usually properties like this end up somehow involved with the planning board. It's interesting because this application doesn't necessarily create a site plan review process, does it?
Well, I think it does. I
Okay.
think it's big enough that, it's going to have to go back to the planning board for site plan review. But I would agree with Mr. Conley. I think they're probably 95% there. I think the abutter brings up an interesting case, and in that by adding a story to this building, if in fact the roof levels of the existing Malcolm and Parsons building and the abutters building are at the same height, and this building gets substantially higher, there is an issue with the change in the snow loading of the abutting building. But I think we can you can deal with it. You can deal with that, and maybe there's some kind of cross easement or party wall agreement or something that it would be a small fraction of the construction cost of the new building as part of the thing to reinforce the roof structure to deal with that snow.
There is a parapet wall that runs along the property line, so there is probably about a foot, but obviously
Yeah.
it's not. So there is a berm there that is creating snow load.
Yeah, it's something to look at.
So I haven't looked to see, I thought that this wasn't involved with site plan review anymore, but if we imposed a condition that required you to complete or comply with site plan approval process, would that be a problem?
No.
No, I want to wait, and I'm going to I may have some more questions after abutters have spoken.
I have another question on the sidewalk. The front sidewalk, you're not doing nothing to except put a tree in it, right? Right on Washington Street. But on Freeman Street, you're taking away, I'm going to say 3 parking spots to put a brick walk in there.
Landscaping, yeah,
Landscaping or
right.
Can you just take that property? Isn't that town property?
We haven't taken it. It remains town property. It'll be simply landscaped as town property.
My understanding
Did the
is-
town go along with that? I mean, yeah, I'm just worried about the snow plowing, because I know how they plow in the square. Well, you just got to finish with us first, Joe.
We did check with the fire department. That's a fire lane, and they didn't have an issue with us closing this in the way that we have it shown. So there's no parking in that section now.
There's 3 spaces.
No, there's a fire lane. It's striped.
It's striped. I think actually,
No,
I'm
there's
not
3
sure.
spaces on the back.
Yeah, but it's striped for no parking. I think it was striped as a
You can see
taxi.
it in the picture. You
We'll
can
see
see
it
it
in the
right in the
picture.
picture right here. There's 3 spaces right there.
But-
One of them's right in front of,
No, it's striped so you can't
Hamilton.
park there.
yeah, these 3 spaces right there, and they're gonna take those out.
No,
Well, you're going to he has to take one out to make the driveway.
Right.
the driveway space is with the proposed property. We're not doing anything in front of the jeweler. This proposal is out here.
Right in-
This picture here is the striped area that's there right now.
Okay, this picture here, the overview picture right here. See these 3 spaces right there? Okay, one of
Yeah,
them
but
is
they're
in
not
front of the abutters property, the other 2 are right here. So you're taking these 2 spaces out?
Those 2 spaces you're talking about now, from left to right, those 2 spaces are where the entrance is. Now, the abutters property, we're not anywhere in front of, we're not disturbing that abutters property in any way. So,
Yeah, but
whatever way that's parked, maybe, that's
one
a
of his-
picture, it's a
One
Google
of his
picture of it,
points
right?
was that you're taking away the parking spaces that,
Well, if I remember the letter being read in, he was talking about the 3 parking spaces along the Freeman Street area. But what we're saying is that, even though you're showing there's in that Google map, that maybe there's cars that park there from time to time, but that, we have a picture of this. This is a striped area. For example, there's a truck parked there right
Yeah, you
now,
can
but
see
it
it.
is,
I'm
but it is
looking
a
right at
striped
the picture
area.
right
so,
here.
Yeah, but
But
that's
there's-
no, that's no parking.
There's
I
no-
understand that. You're
Yeah, but you
taking
still
the-
have 3
But
other
there's
parking
the
spots.
space that would accommodate 3 vehicles at the suggestion of the planning board was suggested to add some landscaping there. But it's not a diminution of parking because currently, I think it's striped as a taxi stand, if I'm not mistaken.
Portion of it is fire lane,
Yeah.
but these are the spaces that go along with the frontage
Yeah.
for the Parsons building,
Yeah.
not the neighboring building.
Yeah.
Those are municipal spaces
Yeah.
in front of the Parson building.
But you're eliminating those with your
We
your
are,
entryway.
Right,
that's correct.
okay.
We're removing 3 spaces.
So why can't we remove that, one of those trees, the one on the right side, right, keep going this way? Because that's the entrance right there, right?
Yes, it
Right
is.
between the-
Right, right.
And can you get 2 spaces or 3 spaces there, where that tree is?
That's 1 space right there.
1 space. Because then you'd still have to have the driveway.
Are
in.
mean, we-
you still up, or is it my turn?
Okay.
Am I arguing? The point that the letter brought up is that you're making Freeman Street smaller. You are.
We are.
It's a,
It's a trade-off for the landscaping.
you got a fire station there. You know, it just takes us 1 car to block it. It's bad enough for a fire truck to get out of the center now. Believe me, I want the project to go through, but we don't need to be creating safety hazards.
Yeah. Well, we had the same concern, and we ran it by the fire chief, and it wasn't a problem to them.
The one that just retired?
Yes.
It's been going on a long time, yes. the one
This
that
is-
just retired.
This is dragged on.
I mean,
The reason we kept the landscape plan that we have, like I said earlier, I wanted to maintain the design that the planning board supported. You understand what?
but obviously, the abutter has a big problem, and
Yeah, and I can see the space, the tree on the right side there that you're talking about, but the spaces in front of, especially from the entrance to the left, they are public spaces, but they do abut the property that we're talking about. There's also a municipal parking lot on the other side.
no, I know that. I don't have any questions, any more questions right now.
Uh-oh. He must have a few. Because I saw him give him back.
Since Gary brought up parking, you said you had a letter from the, you said you talked, I guess, to the fire chief. Do you have any correspondence that you could submit from the current fire department chief, the police department, or the DPW saying that this will not create a problem? Right now, in the center of town, if it snows like it did last year, sometimes they put a ban on parking in downtown, and you want off some street parking, okay? Where are they going to park? You have 14 units, and you only have 10 parking spots. You have 12, but 2 of them are handicapped. What if there's no one handicapped in the building?
Right.
What are those 2? They go to waste? So now you have 14 units, 8 of them are 2 bedrooms. I would have to say, anybody that, I'm just going to take an average. You've got 24 units, 2 cars per unit, which I think is safe because some 1-bedroom units could only have 1 car. Yet some 2-bedroom units could have 3 cars. Who knows? So now you've got 28, I'll even go down to 25 average if you want, okay? let's say you have 25 cars. You only have 10 parking spots. The other 15 cars would have to be parked somewhere in that immediate area because they don't want to walk far. In a big snowstorm, the last thing the town needs is cars parked on Washington Street, cars parked on Freeman Street. If cars are parked on Freeman Street and the road's narrow and the plows come, the plows don't hit the cars, they're probably 3 feet away from the cars with their piles of snow, the road's even narrower. I'd like, before I would vote on this favorably, I need to see what the current fire chief thinks with that scenario. I'd like to know what the DPW supervisor feels about that scenario with snow removal. And I'd also like to know what the police chief says. Now, you're talking about, well, it's a trade-off. We're beautifying the center of town for the redevelopment of Stoughton. There are other redevelopment plans, and some of those plans and sites require parking as well, but not as long-term as a resident's house. If someone has 2 cars, they may park one there for 2 or 3 days before they use it because they're using the other car. Husband and wife, for instance, might say, hey, let's go out, and they go out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. The other car's parked there for a while. If they have a other family member with a car, it could be there for a week without being moved. I don't think downtown can sustain that. I really don't. It's unfortunate. That's nature of the beast of downtown. And with 10 parking spots, I don't think this is conducive to downtown, the way it's laid out right now. I'm not saying I'm against the project. I'm just saying it's very hard to support this project with the situation of that parking right now. And then the business impact. If there's cars on the street, if you look at the way you have that jet out there, you talk about Unique Jewelers. I go to Unique Jewelers. I go to Unique Jewelers a lot. And it isn't the best situation because he has to park on the street in front of his store. Well, you just took a parking spot away from him. Where's his customers going to park? If you park on Washington Street, what if the State Theater ever gets off the ground? Where are they going to park? There's empty buildings right now, retail buildings in downtown Stoughton. Where are their customers going to park?
These spaces that we're talking about with the landscape plan were at the encouragement of the planning board process.
We're not the planning board.
Well, what I'm saying is I'll leave those, we could eliminate that and leave it exactly the way it is and do the job.
But still, where are the people going to park?
Well,
You only got 10 parking
you're gonna
spots.
have your-
I think all the merchants' business park in the municipal lot across the street. That's what it's for.
That's where they park?
That's what it's for.
Down a while, Paul. I don't think so.
If you wanted to go to your jewelry store, you wouldn't park
A
there?
little bit further down, and if you talk to the restaurant owner of that restaurant, what's the name of that restaurant? The Turkish restaurant, what's the name of that?
What,
Chicken
Olivia's?
kebab.
Chicken kebab. He claims one of his problems is parking. Certain times of the day. Parking in front of his place.
I bet if you watched the spots in front of his place, they're empty all day long. I mean, I don't know what his problem is. I think he's the best buy. He's the best dollars per calorie in Norfolk County, as far as I'm concerned.
Never heard it that way.
But what they're trying to do is build a building, that conforms to the underlying zoning. The zoning ordinance recognizes that if you were to require off-street parking for every central business use, there would be no central business. So,
I'm not denying that.
yeah, I mean, I think
No,
it just,
believe me,
it
I'm
is
not
what it
denying
is.
it. We need
you know,
something
And
there.
I think if you're a landlord and you're renting an apartment building, which I think is going to be on the sort of the luxury side of, the equation, your audience is going to be people who don't have 2 cars. Because if it's important to you to have an off-street parking space, you're not going to move there, So I think, I think the problem can solve itself internally, you know. But
When you rent one of these are rentals, right?
Right.
When you rent one of these, you rent a parking space too?
A parking sticker.
So someone who has a sticker pays a little bit more, but they can park in there and others can't?
No, there'll be, in this case, there'll be 10 parking stickers. The first 10 residents in there would get a sticker. So again, after that, whoever's looking at that unit, they'll know ahead of time that they'll have to either be comfortable with, have one car, or no car, or be comfortable with that they could find parking outside of the building footprint. Just the way it has to be.
I'm 100% for a project like this, believe me. I'm just looking at the impact.
I understand.
And DPW, PD, Fire Department, I'd have to hear from them.
If this landscape treatment was not a part of the site plan, would we have to revisit through the DPW, fire, and police? Since we're not.
May not have an impact. I like the landscape. Right? But I'm wondering, putting a retailer out of business maybe because of landscape may not be the way to go.
I'm certainly not looking to do that either.
Right. The landscaping doesn't have an impact. Let the three experts, DPW, fire, and police, get back to us on that. I mean, I'm not going to impersonate either one of the chiefs. You know what I mean? Let's hear from them directly, current ones. They'd have to live with their decision. You know what I mean? Because this is forever, and I don't want to impact. There's rumors that they're going to redo downtown Stoughton again. Who the heck knows what they're going to do, right? We're trying to get businesses to come in. We've got to make sure that we don't hinder any parking down there with them. But this may be the way to go. I'm undecided at this point. Just push me over the edge with some letters. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Steve?
Just one question. Are you moving any of the existing power infrastructure underground, the power lines that cross along there's a pole right here that crosses along here? Are you putting any of that underground?
No,
No. Okay. So it'll just be as is.
as is.
Okay. That's it for now.
Dan?
No questions.
You have any more questions?
Not yet.
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to be heard? Mr. Cardell. You'll have to identify yourself. Nobody knows you're here.
Sometimes it's better.
Good evening, Joe Scardino, Chairman of the Planning Board, Chairman of the Master Plan Committee. I'd like to address some of the comments that were made because, first of all, the applicant's comment that there were a few meetings of the Planning Board was an understatement. This was, there was over a dozen meetings on this. We held public hearings. We were the subject, this project was the subject of an ad in the Penny Saver. This has been fully vetted by the Planning Board. That process includes contacting every single member of the department heads. We, not only that, but this project went before the Board of Selectmen in order to get the easement that the Planning Board requested for the parking. The applicant, through an attorney, was represented in front of the Board of Selectmen to secure an agreement that Town Council reviewed, as I understand it, for the license to take that space for landscaping. The requirement was from the Planning Board, and not only from the Planning Board, but from its master plan consultants unanimously. But all four of them indicated to us that landscaping that square and that area was a top priority. I want to remind this board that the Your citizens of the town of Stoughton, through the master plan process, indicated that its number one priority was the square. This is the first major project that's come since the master plan. And hence, we required the landscaping because it was part of the design factors that the planning board utilizes in any project, especially one of this magnitude. We went over this building with a fine-tooth comb, changing facades, trim, the decorations on the architectural moldings on the building. And back a moment to the site plan because because I want to address questions about the department heads. Chief Doloff opined on the issue of whether he can get an engine. He says he has no problem. They swing across the island as it exists now. If they have a problem swinging an engine around, it's the island that presents the biggest impediment to them. As far as John Batchelder, my recollection was that John says it actually improves the plowing because now that's a straight curb as opposed to the swale that goes in and out. So the plows cannot negotiate that swirl easily. So having the straight curb helps that factor. As far as the impact on downtown, there's 9 spaces at the Malcolm Parsons building. I too go to the jeweler. I've used those spaces. I've used the space in front of his building. I also go to Chicken Kebab. I was there last night. I parked one car from the curb, one car from the corner of Porter and Washington. If I had to point to one project that I think is the beginning of the rebirth of the square, this is the project. You're going to see other businesses coming in when they see a project of this stature coming into the square. It's one of the, you talk about the House of Brews being a spark. This is an inferno as far as what it's going to cause as far as development. The landscaping will take the drudgery and the dilapidation of the square and put some color into it. The planning board spent hours and hours going over this design, and I would appreciate the board giving it very serious consideration.
Anybody else?
Actually, on the parking, on all the discussions on the parking, it's okay to.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Gary, because the planning board, the Schmood bylaw that the original application was done, we cannot waive that. We had the opinion of 3 attorneys that that was an unwaivable position. The applicant had no choice but come back to regular zoning in order to get this building up and lopped off a substantial amount of revenue in the process. As you may know, one of your members has been on our zoning bylaw committee. This is one of the reasons why we spent a year redrafting the bylaw, which I hope all of you support, and come to the meeting on Monday night at 7 o'clock at the Senior Center. Because under the new zoning bylaw, this project would have already been up because the planning board would have been given the authority to be able to make the necessary decisions and waivers that this project would need without having to go through this process that you have this evening. So I would encourage you and your colleagues, neighbors, and friends to come out and vote for that bylaw change at this town meeting.
Didn't answer my question, but okay.
I'm happy, Gary. I thought I did, but
No, you said there's no need for parking, basically then.
I said...
I mean, that's the whole issue here. There's only 10 spaces. Believe me, I'm not against the project, but there's no, where are these people going to park? That's the point. Especially like they say during a snowstorm.
No, they can't
Is
park
it-
there. Anybody else have anything to say? Comment? Oop.
What is the, let's assume this does pass. What's your timeframe of actually starting?
As soon as the process allows, if this passed, and then we have to wait naturally for the appeal period. And we have to go in for site plan review, whatever amount of time that process takes. Right away though, this has been in the works for over 2 years. We want to, as quickly as we can proceed.
So Joe, it sounds like you guys are going to fast track this as well, right?
Well, we spent 2 years going over this. If I went back to look at my meetings, I would think there's at least a dozen meetings that have occurred on this project. And frankly, I think you appreciate the engineering because you had our engineer at your Sonic hearings. And the issues about drainage, I guess I should come to the microphone, so they'll be able to hear me back. The having spent that much time, I can't remember a project. I've been on the planning board 8 years. I can't remember a project that has as many hearings as this one did, and as much public comment. And by the way, I want to address the letter that was sent by the abutter. In all the public hearings that we had, we never heard from that abutter. I find it very strange at the 11th hour that abutter is coming forward. It sounds to me like there might be another agenda here. Because we clearly advertised, and we had plenty of public from all over Stoughton. We had representations from all the precincts at those meetings, and they were talking about all the design issues, the height, the fit, the architectural uniformity with other buildings in the square. But we never heard from this abutter at all, and I was a bit surprised to hear that come up this evening at the 11th hour. It was the 11th hour because I think the postmark on that was pretty recent.
Today.
Joe, I have a question before you sit down. You said the planning board issued licenses for the landscaping.
No, I said that the Board of Selectmen, my understanding is the Board of Selectmen, because that's the town of Stoughton land, that you just can't annex anything beyond your parcel without an easement or a license. And the Board of Selectmen, there were several meetings, at least 2 on that one, on that issue. And the selectmen agreed that that was a worthwhile use of that property.
What about,
And they certainly would have not done so had any of the department heads that you referenced this evening would have, and they had a further opportunity to come in and talk about that space at that time. And I think there's someone in the audience tonight that was privy to that process in even more detail than I was, and can speak about the actual selectmen's process. I'll let, if he decides to speak.
so my question really is more to the entryway and the loss of the spaces that were originally in front of that entryway. And is there any issue with the fact, I mean, that isn't part of the landscaping. I understand the landscaping went where the striped lines are. And,
But it also went
in
to-
one spot.
Yeah.
But that entryway is taking over 2 of those 3 spaces. Was there ever any discussion? Was there any permissions that were needed? Were they granted from the town to lose those 2 municipal spaces? Because you'll have to in order to access that site or that parking area.
This is the access way.
Right.
This is private property, which has a right of access from the way. So you're saying you're losing 2 public spaces. The public doesn't have a right to those spaces. The property has a right to access through that space.
Well, but the property could be accessing the space in a different location. I mean, right now, the public has put 3 parking spaces there. The only reason it's blocking the access is because of the way you've designed this new building.
Well,
But
whether we access a building here or here or here, you're going to lose 2 spaces. The minimum with this 20-foot entranceway is going to cost you 2 spaces.
What is that right of way in the back?
Out here?
Yeah.
That's not ours.
whose is it? Do you know?
It appears to go
Not
to this.
public?
No, it's not public. It's
That's
private.
private property.
Private right away.
No, but in the back, I didn't know.
Private
Okay,
property.
that's private.
Yeah. I think PRs are on. There's also another building.
Just one more comment regarding the location of the access. If you're going to access the property, you want to do it as far away from the intersection as possible. That's why we chose that area. And Freeman had far less traffic, so it made more sense if people were queuing here to get in, that it not be out on Washington Street. Sure, that's it. No, we're not going to change that. I promise you I won't change that, Dan.
Yeah.
Earlier, I asked for a letter from those three department heads. I think Joe basically answered it for sure. So, why duplicate it?
And also, assurance, Mr. Pressia, that the selectmen, I believe, granted that license, and they would not have granted the license if there were any issues from department heads. So even if you don't believe my account of the planning board process, the fact that they were given the license for that space indicates the selectmen agreed with the usage of those.
Anybody else in the audience want to speak? No? What's the wish of the board?
Do we want to hear from the concerns on that letter, or?
Yeah, I'd at least like a little bit of time to digest this, frankly. I feel like we were given a lot tonight, and this is a big project, and there wasn't a lot of information presented to us. I know there was a ton of plans, but I'm learning a lot about what your process was before. I'd like some time to think about it. Maybe that will result in a butter coming back or not. You receive that letter, maybe you're gonna reach out to them, I don't know, and different letter gets submitted. I wanna spend some time looking at the bylaw a little bit more too. Not trying to hold you up very long, but I'd just like a little bit more time to think about this. Not a big deal, is it?
But I just don't want you to.
That's my feeling. I don't know about everyone else.
I'll entertain a motion.
Can we make a motion to continue this case to November 5th?
No, why can't we do the 15th?
Don't have a
Yeah,
secretary.
but we can record it.
We don't have a recording secretary for the next meeting, and at the moment, there's nothing on the agenda for the 15th.
Well, I mean, it's either
Wanna
just
continue
us
it to the 15th?
deliberating, it'd
Yeah.
just be, I mean, somebody may show up and we may have more
No, it can't.
testimony.
To what date?
Marguerite wants to
I want
check
some more
the-
time
the-
to look, to
check
think
the
about it and
bylaw
look into
at
it.
the project. And I just wanted to find out if maybe there's be some mitigation for the abutter. That's
We'd continue the whole thing until the 15th, so
Okay.
technically it'd still be a public hearing. It's a special permit application, so it's not like we're under a, it's not a significantly long time, but I think it gives us some time to just digest what we heard, or at least me.
Make a
So
motion.
I'll make a motion, we continue case 4161 to October 15th, 2015,
I'll second.
7:30.
7:30.
For a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So,
I guess I'll be your recording secretary then.
no, we'll just take one of the,
It may not be a very long
Yeah.
If you
meeting.
could make some kind of arrangements for parking, that would,
I understand. Thank you for your time today.
but yeah, that's,
I think
right.
I
I
had a
also
couple of
understand there, you know, more people have been voted.
pages that were attached to this that were blank.
No,
I might have left them by the,
Okay, that's fine. I mean, Mary can just send them to me in the
yeah,
packet.
okay.
I think you got a couple of pages downstairs. I'm not sure what they were, but I don't know if I'm.
Well, it was a whole thick thing of, you had like something about the sign variance, or what, I forget what you called it. I didn't give that back to you.
okay,
yeah,
we
now
got-
limit between.
All the originals are down there. I'll make sure that Mary
Yeah,
recopies
6 a.m.
everything.
6 a.m. to
like to continue. Can't talk about that case anymore. Oh. Oh, you don't know Mr. Broadmerkle? What? You don't know Mr. Broadmerkle? December 1st. Hey, don't take my money away. I gotta shut this off.
Fire station will be all built in 2 years' time.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, let's continue, please. Zoning Board of Appeal, I'll entertain a motion that, open case number 4162.
Motion open case number 4162.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Zoning Board of Appeal, Town of Stoughton, notice of public hearing. Public hearing will be held in Town Hall, Conference Room B, Room 301, third floor, 10 Pearl Street on October 1st. Excuse me. So,
Please,
on October 1st, 2015, at 7:32 PM on the petition of Daniel Curran, representative by Attorney Barry Crimmins. I guess he lost his Esquire. Where is he? Case number 4162 for variances under the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw of 1970 as amended. Section 6B, Table of Dimensional and Density Regulations, relative to a minimum lot area, minimum front yard setback, minimum rear yard setback in an IU zone, in Section 8G, Parking and Loading Space Standards. Item number 9, relative to the location of driveways from an intersecting street in order to subdivide the existing lot, which presently contains 2 residential dwellings, and create 2 lots, each with its own dwelling on it, located at 24 Blackstone Street. Further identified in Assessors Plan 53, Lot 13, in an IU and RB zone in said Stoughton. Any person desiring to receive further notice concerning this petition as provided by the general rules of the Zoning Board of Appeal should file a written request containing his or her name and address with the board. Petitioner or his representative or any other person desiring to be heard in this matter should appear at time and place designated. Sherman Upro, Chairman, was in September 11th and September 18th in the Stoughton Journal. And I have correspondence from Barry Crimmins, PC. I'm not going to read that in because that's just a standard letter from him.
And he's the lawyer.
But it's, Dear Chairman Epro, members of the Owner Zoning Board of Appeals, please be advised that the undersigned represents Daniel Curran, 26 Bates Avenue, Weymouth, Mass. 02190, regarding the application for certain dimensional variations in order to subdivide an existing lot which contains 2 residences on it and 2 separate lots at the above reference location that in the RU residential urban and RB residential suburban zoning laws. And that's all our correspondence, and the abutters have been informed. Mr. Crimmins.
The motion to waive the reading of the abutters and to take the answers to question 9 as written.
All in favor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If you'll bear with me 1 second. I'm playing engineer tonight as well. So, yeah. All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Attorney Barry R. Crimmins of 909 Washington Street in Stoughton, here on behalf of the applicant, Daniel Curran. Mr. Curran owns the property in question at 24 and 26 Blackstone Street. If you're not familiar where Blackstone Street is, it's sort of down behind the Gibbons School. If you were to go down past the Gibbons on your left-hand side, take a left on the Lothrop and a left on the Bradford. Bradford basically running parallel with Morton Street. Then you take a right onto Blackstone, and some of you old-timers may have played softball down at the old Marks Field down at the end of Blackstone Street. So this property, if you come down, actually, I've always wanted to use one of these little pointers. The 3 things I always wanted to get as a frustrated lawyer was one of these pointers, a tripod, and the scale that the engineers use. I still haven't figured out how to work one of those scales, but if you're coming down Blackstone from this direction here, the property is on the left here, and this is Spring Street. Spring Street comes out there, actually goes by John Batchelor's house on the end of Spring Street. Marx's Field would be right in this area here at the corner, and it goes out to Water Street, so just to give you an orientation. This is truly, I have to admit, in my 28 years of practice, I don't think I've had a case like this. What I mean by that is this. I see in front of Mr. Pesce, you have in front of you, which I was going to point out, you have in front of you a 1947 land court plan. And Sherman, if you should be with the, and if not, I did bring extra copies of that. Let me pass these out, if I may, at this time. Because I want the members to appreciate sort of what we have and what we're doing. So maybe, Tom, if I could pass some of them this way, and then Stanley, if I could pass some that way. This situation that I'm going to discuss has been in existence, as you can see from that 1947 plan, since at least
We already have that.
at least 1947. And what is the situation I'm referring to? The fact that, as you can see from that 1947, that's a land court plan. This property is on, thank you, this property is on, the 2 houses, I should say, 24 and 26 Blackstone Street, are on the 1 lot. And they have been on that 1 lot since at least 1947. When the plan was, they may have been even prior to that, but we know at the very least this situation has existed since at least 1947. Okay, this is what it's not is the type of case that you've often had in the past. I don't think there's been too many recently, but in the past, you've had cases come before you where somebody has had a so-called oversized lot, and they've sought to subdivide that lot to create two buildable lots. And typically, one, if not both of those lots is going to be non-conforming in some respect, and therefore the applicant needs a variance either for lot area or something of that nature. Here, what we have are, again, and if what I clipped to or stapled to the 1947 plan with what I just handed out is a copy of the assessors map. So again, showing the two houses on the lot. To clarify one issue, on the 1947 map, the 4 lots there, that's all the one lot now. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all part of Mr. Curran's property, but they've all merged into one lot. So what you see out there today, the assessors map probably does a better job of depicting what basically is out there today. What you'll also notice on this assessors map, interestingly enough, and I think Ms. Mitchell might appreciate this, and Mr. McGrath from the discussion Monday night at that zoning workshop when we were talking about how the zoning map was created in this town. And it took me a while to figure out, this red line, that's a zone line, if you can believe it. It took me a while to figure out how and why they drew that line in that manner until I got the site plan. And then, if you look at the site plan, you'll see that there's a brook that runs, actually, I can show you again with my little pointer.
Can you hold it a little more steady?
This one? I can't, I've had too much coffee today, Dan. See that brook right there? They basically drew the zone line along the boundaries of the brook. So that's why I've seen some crazy zone lines on our zoning map in the past. You know, you go up and down 138 and it jogs back and forth. I have never seen one like this, but that's what we have. Below that brook, below the zone line, is the RB zone. But you can see both dwellings are located in the RU zone. There is that small portion of the property that's located in the RB zone. But both dwellings are located in the RU zone. Okay? So this is not a situation, as I was saying a moment ago, this is not a situation where you have somebody who has an existing piece of vacant land and they're looking to subdivide that land and create 2 lots that they can put 2 houses on. This is a situation that is truly, the classic definition of pre-existing non-conforming use, because as you know, our bylaw has a prohibition against more than one dwelling, more than one principal structure, for that matter, on a lot. Well, again, as we point out, this was done as early as, if not earlier, than 1947. So, what is Mr. Curran looking to do? He's looking to create 2 lots, but again, not to get another buildable lot. He's looking to create 2 lots so that each house, the front house, number 24, is a 2-family. I'm not sure if you can see, let me put the pictures up here and I'll pass out some other pictures that you can look at. This is the front house. This is, the front of that house. This is the side, and this is the rear here. This staircase is over on this left-hand side, okay? So this would be looking from the back. This is the rear of the house. This is the left side looking at from the front, again, the front of the house. So the 2-family is at number 24 Blackstone, and then behind it is this single family at 26 Blackstone, okay? So all we are looking to do is to basically subdivide the existing lot to create 2 lots, simply so each dwelling will be on its own lot. Obviously, in so doing, we have some dimensional and density issues that require a variance, which is the subject of tonight's hearing. Why is Mr. Curran looking to do this? He bought the property in December of 2012. He has had the property on the market for probably the last 2 years, Dan, approximately. He's had 2, if not 3, sales. He's had the property under agreement that have fallen through because when the lenders seek comparable sales data for purposes of underwriting the mortgage, they can't find any comps. Because there are no comps in Stoughton where you have this situation of two dwellings on one lot. So he cannot sell the property as it presently is. The only way he's going to be able to sell the property is in effect to, again, create the two lots so that, again, the two-family will be on one lot, the single-family will be on one lot. You go out there today, this is what you'll see. You go out there after, if the board were inclined to approve the variances requested, you'll see exactly the same thing. Nothing is going to change. One minor exception, I should qualify that. We're proposing a driveway for access to the single family in the back that would run along Spring Street. Spring Street, that section of Spring Street that borders our property is a private, undeveloped way. The section of Spring Street on the other side of Blackstone is a public way, the section that goes out to Water Street. Okay? I want to show you, and I'll pass this around. I have about 8 or 9 pictures in this booklet, and I think there's one that probably illustrates best where we're proposing the driveway, and you'll see the property to our right that's shown on that plan that also abuts Spring Street on the other side. This, well, a couple of them here. So here again, if you can see this, and I'll pass this around. Here's the two-family dwelling. Our property line is basically pretty much where those pine trees are. And then to the right of that starts the right-of-way for Spring Street. To the right of that, you see the driveway for the other property on the other side of Spring Street, the white paver driveway there, okay? We're not looking to do anything on Spring Street. We're not looking to do anything that's going to affect the abutter's driveway. We're proposing our driveway basically just to the left of those trees. And again, the driveway, if you refer again to the site plan, you see it's a 12-foot wide drive that would run along the right-of-way of Spring Street. But Spring Street, again, is a private, undeveloped way, and I doubt very much that it would ever be developed. The only two properties that abut Spring Street in this area are my client's property and that abutter to the right, to the right as you're facing it, okay? One of the variances that we're asking for is a variance to the provision that says driveways, the distance from a driveway to an intersecting street has to be not less than 50 feet. Section 8G9, I believe it is. It's in my application. So we've asked for a variance for that so we can be closer than the 50-foot minimum. But again, the practical reality of it is such that, you know, when we say we're abutting a street in name only. Again, it's an undeveloped, it's that grass area that you'll see in those pictures. Okay? Let me pass out, just so everybody will know exactly what it is that we're requesting. And again, if I may sort of pass half of, I'm going to keep one for myself because I always forget to do that. Let me pass some this way, Stanley, if I may, and some this way. Both lots require variances to lot area. Again, you can see on the plan, we have, what did I do with my glasses? Here they are. What we're showing is Lot 5, which is the 24 Blackstone Street property, the two-family in the front. That'll have an area of 16,856 square feet. In the RU zone for a two-family, because now we have another issue, we have one of those zones that, because it allows for two families, has a different dimensional requirement for two families versus single families. So in the RU zone for a two-family, we're required to have 35,000. The lot as proposed would have 16,856, so we'd need a variance of 18,144. You go down to the bottom on this, if everyone has got it now. We need a rear yard, the rear yard setback is 40 feet. what I'm calling the rear yard is the distance from the back of the building to the proposed lot line that would divide the two lots, and we only have 17 feet there. So we need a variance of 23 feet there. And despite, sort of what appears to be, a lot of engineering, that's what, the first lot comes down to, lot area, and then a rear yard setback variance. And similarly, the back lot with a single family, the minimum lot area for single is only 25,000 versus the 35,000. We have 16, we're proposing 16,810, and so we'd need a variance 8,190 for the back lot, the single family. And there, we have a front yard setback of 25 feet. We have 20 feet, so we would need a variance of 5 feet there. So you have those four, plus the requested variance for the minimum distance for the driveway location and proximity to the Spring Street layout. So that, Mr. Chairman, it's truly, again, I said that, in 28 years, I don't think I've ever had a case like this. Some other towns have a so-called a family compound provision in their bylaw. Town of Easton has such a provision. You can have more than one house on a lot. We don't have such a provision. If we did, you could do this kind of thing, and also, from a practical standpoint, Mr. Curran would probably be able to, or, the lender would probably be able to get comps that they could comp out such a sale. But, the reality is, again, Dan, 3 sales, I believe, have fallen through once it got to underwriting, because it simply can't comp out the property. So that,
This is the
we can't sell
proposal,
one
right?
without the others.
This is
Right,
the
right.
proposal.
Right.
But where does he want the driveway?
Just to the,
I think right here.
I could show you, Gary, where are you? So our driveway would be right here, right there.
So on those,
The pine trees would be just to the right.
so
of
it's
you.
28 feet?
It's 26 feet from the corner to the Spring Street layout. And so the driveway would be about 14 feet over from the house, from the 24 Blackstone Street house, the two-family in front. Again, I don't know where the picture, that one there, I think, was it the cover one that shows, or one of the ones in there with, yeah, so that shows the trees there, right on the
Yeah,
cover.
yeah, right
Sherman,
there.
Yeah. So the driveway would be just to the left of those trees.
It'll be on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason, by the way, if you're looking at if you're looking at the site plan, there's the existing drive to serve the front property. The reason we can't do anything adjacent to that is that's where the septic system is located. It's a
On this side.
mounded system, so,
Yeah.
over on the facing the
opposite
house
side?
on the left side, yeah. Because what would appear to give us more room, and because there's an existing driveway, but we have an issue with the septic system in that location, so we really can't do it over there.
So that other guy's driveway is actually on Spring Street?
Yes. We're not touching their driveway, we're not doing anything, again, it's interesting, actually, what's interesting, if you look at our deed, I'll just point this out,
I
and
don't know, I don't see the mound.
only sort of geeks like Marguerite and myself, get excited about these things, but even in the legal description, in talking about that lot, it says, so much of said land as is included within the limits of said Spring Street and Tremont Street. Tremont Street is the street in back
Yep.
that is also undeveloped, is subject to the rights of all persons lawfully entitled thereto in and over the same. So this is the classic, I'm sorry, Steve, I left you all the geek description. The classic issue of abutting a private way. And people often get confused about what rights one abutter has vis-à-vis another abutter. And you have certain rights, but they are exercisable in common with the rights of the other abutters. So you can't do anything, and this was sort of the issue on the car wash in Washington Street, with the neighboring property there. You can exercise those rights, but in so exercising those rights, you cannot deprive the other abutters of the ability to exercise their rights. So I just want to point out, we're not touching the neighbor's driveway. We're not drawing any opinions or conclusions about their ability to do what they do there. We have no desire to change any of that in any way.
Where's the mounded septic system?
So you're basically
This way.
looking at it
That
right
there?
in that area, yeah. Yeah, that picture doesn't really show it too well, but it is, on the plan,
Must be there.
it's right, in fact, you can see the leaching field and the tanks are in that area right there. So that is,
Just for curiosity's
yeah.
sake, you're putting a driveway right on the Tremont Street side,
right.
or Spring
On the
Street
Spring
side,
Street side, yeah.
but you're not going on to Spring Street. You're going
Right.
to still stay on his land,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Which is,
You can see it, then there's another picture farther in.
yeah,
Oh, here's, right there.
yeah.
This is the driveway, that's Spring Street, so he wants to go right in
Right.
there.
So the other house already has a driveway, is that correct? Does this driveway go to that,
Which one? I'll show
the
that.
two-family?
Yeah, the two-family has this driveway here, to the left of the house.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So, just for curiosity,
Yeah.
why are you going on to almost Spring Street, instead of going in like right here?
Well, I guess from a practical standpoint, you know, if they were, that driveway on the other side, are you suggesting using that existing driveway?
No, this is their driveway.
Right,
This is the house over here,
Yeah.
which
Right,
would
but-
be over here.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's right here.
No, I meant on,
But that driveway is right here.
yeah, it's gonna be right on a,
No, the existing driveway, this
The
driveway
existing
right here.
driveway for 34
on-
is in the layout of
is in
Spring
It is
Street.
in the
It's
Spring Street right
it's in
away.
Spring
Yep,
Street.
yep.
Yeah.
oh, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so not only that, and then the land that you see to the right of the trees is part of the Spring Street right of way, so we can't use that property. I mean, I guess technically we could, because we have rights in it, but I'm assuming the
Wait a minute,
engineering
now-
department would
now you
want
got
us
me
to.
all confused here.
Okay,
This here,
Mhm.
this is Spring Street, or this is where the driveway's
There's
going?
no Spring Street.
Okay, but,
I
But
need to-
The driveway, he's gonna go, the driveway's gonna be over here.
so it's gonna go
To the left of
between
the
the trees,
trees.
left of the trees, going in here. Okay, well, that's,
Yeah.
okay.
So that
That's-
driveway, which is, you know, for this abutter over here, is in the layout, but this grass area to the right of the trees is also within the Spring Street layout. That's why we're proposing the driveway to the left of those
Okay,
trees.
all right, I was confused. I was on the other side.
Yeah.
I don't,
I was too. at
Well,
first.
that-
Septic system on the other side, so we really can't do anything over on that other side.
Is it one septic system for both houses?
Yeah, so there's gonna be, when we create the two lots, we're gonna have to create easements, and all that fun stuff. This will also, obviously, if this board were inclined to approve this, we then have to go to the planning board with an A&R plan, for endorsement by the planning board. But again, it's an A&R endorsement because both lots will have frontage on existing ways, again, even though Spring Street, is not developed.
Showing 4 tanks, right? 2 for each house,
I'm sorry, Shane?
septic?
Yeah, and then it's a common leaching,
On-
Dan?
Leaching
Sorry.
field?
The leaching field is a common leaching field for
Yes.
both properties, okay, yeah. I was hoping the pictures would clarify things, I hope they didn't confuse things more.
just the individual. Anybody have any other questions?
Yeah.
Sean,
Nope, I'm good right now. Thanks.
gotta learn to open your mouth.
Right. So Spring Street is a private way or a public way?
The section from Blackstone back to Tremont is private. The section from Blackstone out to Water Street is public.
Okay, so it's a paper road, private way,
Mhm.
derelict fee statute applies, right, which
Mhm.
gives you rights to the center line of the private way.
Yep.
And I guess I'm confused as to how you now have frontage with what you're proposing is lot 6.
Mhm.
Because I don't think you do, you have frontage on a private way, not a public way, so that's a issue with our definition of.
Well, one of the definitions, if I may, is a way shown on an approved plan. So that land court plan from it doesn't have to be public, it can be public or private or shown on an approved plan.
private.
Oh, it's no doubt it's private, no different than when any new subdivision is built, they generally start out as private ways until they get accepted by the town. Some ways never do get accepted by the town, they continue as private ways. I don't know why, and,
We had a similar case, I don't think it ever came to this board, but there was a case a couple of years ago. John Ando had a lot on Vaughn Court, which is over by Birch Street.
Sumner, yeah.
And the frontage was on an unimproved street. But we determined that I can't find the definition in here of lot frontage, but we determined that that paper street, that unimproved street gave him frontage. And he was able to, with the approval of the, I guess the engineering department, they approved a driveway on half of that paper street that gave him access to the lot. But he
Well, I
had-
think we have paper streets in town that are public, that it would work with. I mean, I think there's areas where that exists, but, I mean, even looking at this, so that this plan, the 1947 plan, doesn't have, obviously, the endorsement of the planning board. Because the planning board probably,
So you're making a
Whereas subdivision
distinction
rules-
between a private paper street and a public paper street?
I think we have streets that were laid out and, like, for instance, I used to live on the numbered streets, the second, third,
right.
fourth. And that subdivision plan that was approved when that whole subdivision was built included a lot of roads that never went from Turnpike Street to Park Street, all the way back. But they're there, they're laid out, they're shown on an approved subdivision plan, and I think you could technically develop lots in that area, and you'd have to bring the street further along, but you could do that. This private street looks different to me. Very.
I mean, this is not unlike, I guess the example I would think of that some of you might be acquainted with, sort of down at Lakewood Pines, when you look at all those little, on the original plan to create those lots, you had those little 2,500 square foot lots, 50 by whatever it would be. And, through the years, those lots would get combined, but you look at the original subdivision plan, the layout for that neighborhood, you see all the streets, and you see all the lots, and then basically they were campsites for the lake originally.
But this isn't the original subdivision plan. This is just a land court. This was just a plan of land register with the land court. I mean, have you found the original subdivision plan? Because if we see that, and that shows these streets when they were created, Tremont, it probably
Right.
had more back there. I would assume the subdivision was beyond these four.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the issue is that you're raising, though. I mean, it may have been that in 1947, you didn't need a planning board endorsement if you created lots that met certain criteria. Obviously,
But we do now
knowing the constrictions of the land court, for them to approve this plan.
Right, but we need that now to create this lot 6, because we don't have.
Right, that's why I mentioned the second part of the process would be to go to the planning board with an A&R plan for the planning board's endorsement.
Well, then maybe we need to wait. I mean, I know typically that makes sense, but maybe in this case it doesn't with this unique situation where they at least say to us, hey, we agree that this is, these are 2 lots that could be created
Okay.
through that process.
Could I ask that if the board were otherwise favorably inclined, could you vote to approve subject to the planning board endorsement? So that we're not kind of bouncing back and forth?
I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I just want to, this is such a complicated area of law. I mean, you're talking about so many different old fee things that I just want to think about that a little bit more. Let me ask you my other questions, because that's just sort of got raised as we were talking about this. So I understand the comments you made about the hardship right now and him reselling the property, but he purchased it in 2012. So at least in the last 5 years, there's been the ability to have a sale of the property.
Well, right, and unfortunately, I think Mr. Curran would agree with me. He purchased this property without having to go through financing, so these issues that he has now faced as buyers that he has entertained, have tried to finance the purchase, he didn't run into, and probably had he, at that, time, probably wouldn't have bought the property in 2012.
But it's not impossible to sell it, it's just been difficult.
No, but, I mean, there's very few things are impossible, but the practical reality is and through actual experience, it's become extremely difficult, and I think it certainly falls within the criteria for hardship within the bylaw.
Okay. Prior to Mr., sorry, I'm forgetting
Curran.
his name.
Mr. Curran.
Yep, Curran,
Mhm.
purchasing the property, when was the last sale transaction of the property? I mean, I see the.
It was held in the
reference.
Winskevich family for many years. Let me look at the deed, and it will have a title reference for their title reference. 1956 for the back piece, and for well, for the
probate.
front, it's referencing a certificate of title dated 1988, but again, it's out of an estate. So
Right.
it was the estate of Walter Winskevich, so in all likelihood, because it was the estate that sold him the property, so.
Yeah, I was thinking more arm's length.
Yeah, basically, the Winskeviches purchased it from Nickerson in 1956.
Okay.
If you look at the top of the second page of the deed, if you
So
have that.
at least 2 arm's length transactions since these 2 lots have been on the property.
Well, the 1956 sale to the Winskeviches, and then it went from the estate of Winskevich to Mr. Curran.
Right. So the lots in the second part of the deed, the 113, 114, and 115, what
Right.
are those?
Those are actually the parcel that is on the other side of Tremont Street that you don't see. That's the other reason I clipped the assessors plan. You don't see it on the land court plan because they're not, that piece is not registered land. It's recorded land. You do see it shown as Lot 15 on the assessors map. The problem with that piece is it's wet. As far as, utilizing it.
But again, Tremont Street is private, right? So again, through the derelict fee statute, arguably, he owns to the center line of the road in both locations.
Mhm.
So that he could easily create.
Well, see, now,
Now would-
I don't know if Tremont, it's listed on the land court plan as private, whether it in fact still is, and my sense is it is, because I don't think it exists in the field. I think that's truly a paper street there. The other lot you see on the assessors map, I'm familiar with the folks, that's right next to the playground at the Gibbon School. The one that's shown as 125 Bradford.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at too many plans.
This one, Marguerite.
Right here.
So this,
This
coming
one's next
down
to the
Bradford,
Gibbons.
and you see this one that, appears to, well, it does abut Tremont, but it actually fronts on Bradford. Tremont.
Lot 14.
Correct, yeah. So the property Mr. Curran purchased, that's the second parcel described in his deed, is Lot 50.
Okay. So.
I guess what we were looking to avoid is having to go through the process of, in effect, terminating Tremont Street.
What do you mean by terminate?
Well, you get, if the private way, you'd have to get into the whole issue with getting a sense from all property owners and mortgagees on the, if you wanted to change that. we're trying to do this in probably, what I hope to be the most practical way possible, which is same reason we're proposing the driveway along Spring Street as opposed to having to pave Spring Street and then impact the abutters where they have their driveway. We just felt it was a cleaner solution all the way around if we have the ability to locate the driveway on our property instead of having to develop Spring Street.
Well, so I guess I'm trying to understand exactly what he owns and what the, I see what this looks like for this area, but, I mean, there could be an argument that he actually owns both sides of Tremont Street right now, and since he has ownership there, and that lot's non-conforming, he actually has a larger lot, right? Which potentially gives you more area to both of these, but it makes these lots look a little
Yeah, but
different.
if he were to do something, you're suggesting sort of
So there's been,
combining
well,
here?
potentially there's even been a merger by operation of law, I don't know,
Right, and again,
from here to here, right?
but then you have this issue, this way does exist, it was created, Tremont Street. You've got these lots back here that people would have rights to pass and repass.
I don't know, I guess I'm trying to understand if it does exist or not. I mean, we're saying it exists because we see a land court plan that shows it as private.
When you say whether it exists, what do you mean?
Is it a public way that people actually have rights to, or if
It's
it's,
a
if
Tremont?
it's just simply private way?
Tremont's
and
a private
he
way.
owns on both sides of that private way, then he owns to the middle of that private way there, and other people don't have the right to pass and repass over it unless they have deeds that would
Sure
give
they
them that
do.
right.
Right, and so you've got all these lots going back here that potentially have rights to pass and repass over Tremont that we can't prohibit.
Not so sure about that. I'm trying to understand what the status of the lots are. I'm not positive that that's the case. And I'm also trying to understand what the future is going to look like, because we're creating lots that are very oddly shaped, that are going to have a lot of cross easements, because, I mean, you've got potentially a cross easement for access, certainly for sewage. Not sure what you're doing about the sheds. I'm
Nothing.
also not sure what these two lines are.
Which,
Is that the pathway?
which lines are you talking about?
Is that his pathway? I'm not sure why it's on your plan.
Yeah,
Driveway.
yeah, from the driveway. Because right now, that's the only driveway that exists. So it's a walkway to the back house.
But that's going to ultimately be just paved over,
Right.
or roomed over.
Right. And obviously, any prospective purchaser will have to be advised that, that there are easements in place. The reality today is, for all practical purposes, he can't do anything with the property.
Okay. I don't know. I think you could do a lot with this property, because I think you got more property than you realize, but. So the only land in common that's owned by him right now is Lot 13 and Lot 15 on the assessor's maps, right?
Correct. Yep.
And my last question is, let's assume that you can use Spring Street as your frontage.
Mhm.
For proposed Lot 6,
Mhm.
isn't your rear now 25.9 feet instead of 40? Don't you need a rear setback variance? I thought it was listed as 40 in what you gave us.
Or the single. Yeah,
Oh, but on the one that Barry gave us tonight, I
Mhm.
thought it said 40.
Says 40.
Because the table had something else that was wrong, so the table had a side yard setback that was incorrect somewhere, so I just thought that you had fixed all of that.
for the rear. Yeah, I may have made a mistake there, but I think for purposes of both our application and our notice, it refers to a rear yard setback, so I
Yeah.
think my chart is just
It's okay, I just want to
incorrect,
make
yeah.
sure we.
Because I agree with you.
go
I think
forward
what I
with
was
this.
looking at was the depth dimensions as opposed to the rear yard setback dimension. So you're
Yeah,
right.
I think
the
you
lot-
asked for it through your application.
Yeah,
But you would need a rear yard right there.
or the second, correct. Thank you for pointing that out. So much for being an engineer. Yeah. So what do we have? We have 25 there. So we need 15.
For what? You need 16 for what, Barry?
So
15,
for
right?
for 26, lot 6, 26 Blackstone, the rear yard setback, which we're required to have 40, we have 25, would need a 15-foot rear yard setback variance.
Okay, I don't have any more questions right now.
I don't have any questions.
Gary? Dave?
So the argument as well is that inability to sell the lot is certainly a hardship, but
Mhm.
it also qualifies as a deprivation of an ability to use the land. You would put an
Well,
ability to sell it, so
I mean, yeah, I guess, you know, I guess the way I would describe it is, and it goes back to the whole sort of unique aspect of the two houses on the one lot, where normally each house would be on its own lot, you'd be able to sell each separately. You know, you'd comp the two-family with other two families, you'd comp the single with other singles, and you wouldn't have that issue. So the problem being with, the only way presently to sell it is together, and just, you know, just cannot find, and this is, again, happened on 3 separate occasions, and he runs into the same problem. Might there be some lender out there that, you know, with perhaps less stringent underwriting requirements would take it at some exorbitant interest rate? Yeah, probably, but that's why I said, you know, the practical effect is such that he hasn't been able to sell it. You know, if he perhaps had said to me that happened once, you know, I might suggest to him, well, try another lender, but when it happens 3 times, I think you realize you have a problem.
Bottom line is he has property that is not defined in my bylaws.
Well, it's sort of defined in the prohibition from having two principal structures on one lot. So that's why I said we have a pre-existing non-conforming use that we're trying to correct that aspect of, you know, by creating the, you know, each house having its own lot, but in so doing, obviously, we have the dimensional issues that we have to address. Not provided in the bylaw in the sense that we don't have, as I mentioned before, we don't have a provision for family compounds like some of the other communities do, you know.
Yeah?
Was the intention when
Tell them
you
to turn
put
it
up
on, will you?
the lot with the key to the building, to have 2 sheds on the same lot?
No, those sheds are there, so, you know, we weren't interested in moving the sheds at all. The division, as shown, was to, as you can see by the resulting lot area, was trying to create 2 lots that were relatively equal in land area. And, you know, and also, you know, the other big thing, of course, is in the property line that goes behind the front house and in front of the back house, we're trying to equalize that as much as possible as well, so that, you know, each of those 2 would get as much land for their respective yards as possible.
Just to add a comment, as a former member of the Board of Assessors, I'm familiar with the process of comparative properties, and I realize the complexity of what the applicant was trying to do.
Mm. Thank you.
Dan, are you aware of any other lots that have 2 homes on it in town?
You aware of any other like this with multiple homes on it?
Nothing of this magnitude. I've seen some weird situations in 20-plus years there, but not anything like that.
Board all set? Anybody in the audience, ladies want to say anything?
My house is the last.
Yeah, you have to identify yourself so we,
Teresa Bonomo. I live on 64 Spring Street. I'm not here to complain or anything. I have nothing, this map just doesn't read right. Spring Street, my house is the last house on Spring Street. The house across the street, the gentleman owns, they're on Blackstone, and the one to the right of him is Blackstone also, but it's down here as Spring Street.
Down where?
On Spring Street?
Kind of confusing. It's very confusing.
Maybe I can,
We have no problem.
may I,
No,
Mr. Chairman?
I'm not here
So,
to.
so what are you, may I, Mr. Chairman, respond?
yeah, definitely, because
So what are you?
one of us gotta learn.
What's your question? And where are you?
I'm the last house on Spring Street.
When you say last house, meaning where, out towards water, or this house here you're talking about?
No, she's there.
Over here in the corner, okay. Okay, right.
Okay.
Okay, so you're here.
Right. I don't live on Blackstone.
Well, you're in the corner of Blackstone and Spring Street, but you face Spring Street. So
Right.
you're right here, okay,
Right.
okay?
But why is that saying this is Blackstone and this street is Spring Street?
Because that is what it is.
It's a paper street. They call
Right.
it a
Here's your-
paper street.
Ma'am, ma'am, if you look at this map, here's your house here, in the corner, okay? Here's Blackstone, here's Spring, but this part of Spring isn't paved,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's the
But I
same.
always thought that was Tremont Street.
No, no, Tremont's down here, going back up towards the Gibbon School. Tremont, the Conleys built this house here, right? And then it curves around to the playgrounds. So this is Tremont here. And then this part of Spring is grassed over, it's not paved. And then you're here at this corner of Spring and Blackstone, right here.
Okay.
Okay, so your address is 64 Spring Street, correct?
Correct.
Right, so you're right there, so that would suggest that, you face the Marks Field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And you saw me out there this morning taking pictures. And you waved to me through the door, right. What are you doing on my grass? So you understand where
I do.
you are? Okay.
I have a question. Judy Thompson, 56 Blackstone Street. About 10 years ago, we sold a piece of land beyond my property. They gave us a map from the town. We paid for the map, and the map says that instead of that being Spring Street, like you said, it was Tremont. Tremont was not listed there, and it's a paper street. Tremont was a paper street.
If I may, Mr. Chairman? So she's over here at the end of Blackstone, well, almost at the end, opposite the field,
Right
correct?
opposite of this
Right.
field,
So,
correct.
once again, here's Tremont, this is the town of Stoughton Assessors map,
Hmm.
okay? And it does run all the way back, so maybe the map that they showed you, showed Tremont back here, but again, once again, same street, Blackstone, and it looks like it's Winter?
Yes, Winter is the
Right,
paper,
right,
is the paper
right,
street
which, as we all know, when you get out to Morton Street, Winter then goes across the other side, out to Water Street.
Water
It goes
Street,
across the other
correct.
side, okay?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what you were looking at when you sold your property a few years
I
ago?
have the map in my car, but it doesn't
No,
matter. To
yeah.
me, it was just that
But-
it was very confusing to see Tremont
Yeah,
on
but
that
it's,
end.
it's consistent, the town's map and this map from the land court are consistent in where they show Tremont Street, yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
just was confused with the Tremont, where it was not in Spring.
Okay, nobody else? What's the wish of the board?
Margarita, you satisfied with your questions, or
I don't
you don't think we can do what we're doing?
I don't think we have the ability to to create lot 6, Barry.
Well, you wouldn't be creating it. You'd be granting a variance for the setbacks of the house. The planning board would be creating it.
Well, we'd be granting a variance to subdivide pre-existing non-conforming lot
Mhm.
into 2 lots.
Mhm. And you have the ability
the
to do if
variances.
you're satisfied that the requirements for the granting of a variance are met. Why would you not have that ability?
So, lucky for you, this is under our old bylaw,
Mhm.
because we have some interesting requirements for variances in here. But, that being said, I think as you look at the definitions of some of the areas you need some variances for, you'd still have to meet this requirement around frontage, which relates to street, and maybe if there was either subdivision plan, not just the land court plan, or A&R, which I don't mind waiting to do something on A&R, but we still got to be able to do something to begin with.
Okay, but if I may then, could we go back to my earlier suggestion that you vote to approve, subject to the planning board endorsing an A&R plan? Because we can get in front of the planning board probably before, the time period would come when you'd be signing the decision anyways. I mean, I can get in front of the planning board probably then.
Yeah, you're right, because we are drafting the decision.
Right.
Yeah, we are drafting this decision, so the time would be,
So by the
would make it
time,
work.
and therefore it would be a condition of approval, we'd have to have the A&R endorsement from the planning board for the variance to be effective.
What's the minimum driveway distance? What was that?
Supposed to be 50 feet according to the bylaw.
And what is it gonna be?
Well, no, it's basically 0. We could set it back, say 2 feet or something, we could adjust that a little bit, so it's not right up against the right-of-way of Spring Street.
Well, it's,
So for
like you say, the area, this area is not gonna be developed, and this brook you're looking for that's way down in the ground. It's not like,
Right.
No, it's not
It's
up top.
Right,
Yeah,
it's subsurface, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we grant the variance for 18,000 on lot number 5, 18,144 square feet of lot area, and a variance of 23 feet of the rear yard setback. And on lot number 6, 8,190 square feet of lot area, and a variance of 5 feet of front yard setback, and 15 feet of rear yard setback. And the minimum driveway distance go to 0, and subject to the planning board approval of an A&R.
Is there a second?
A&R, the right term?
Yes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Oh, wait a minute, that's drafted, draft the decision, that's draft the decision.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No. I'm not opposed to this right now, but I'm not comfortable with that. I'm also not convinced that you don't have land back here. And even if we create these lots, you're
Right.
gonna have it, potentially by operation of law, you're gonna merger if you own that property. And now you've got, possibly you don't even need half of these variances. You might actually be able to create 2 lots that have the sufficient frontage. And if you restructured your lot lines, you might even be able to potentially avoid some of your side yard setbacks, I don't know, but I'm not comfortable with that either.
Sherm's vote.
This is a really awkward,
Did you vote?
yeah, he
No,
did.
not there, it's 3-1.
Well, we need 4.
It was 4-1.
Oh.
right?
It's unanimous, less 1.
Right, this is a 5-minute
He
approval.
hasn't voted yet.
Right, that's why it's Sherm's vote.
What are you saying about this lot? He can't bring this lot to
I
this
think he
lot.
might, I think he may.
Because you still got a paper street between.
I don't know that he has a paper street there.
But at best, Marguerite, that might satisfy, and I don't think it would with that amount, Because look at, it might at best satisfy an area requirement for one of the two lots. That's probably the most we would get, would still have the setback. So to have to go through.
It would be 57,000 square feet of area.
What's
Plus,
that?
You'd have 57,000 square feet between the two lots.
We'd have another 24,000 that we can divide up, and we need 26,000 between the two right now. So that's why I say, at best, it would only, it could possibly solve an area requirement, but to go, frankly, to have to go through those hoops to just, we'd still have the setback variances, because the houses are located, the two streets, Spring and Blackstone, we're not gonna change. We can't change. So we're gonna have those setback issues regardless. That back piece at best might get us, the area, but, if you need 5 dimensional issues and we, have 4 of them, we still need a variance,
Right?
so.
But then you'd also, if that does exist, you have different, you're creating lots that are, I'd think differently about these lots if you had that land all part of it. I don't know. I mean, I guess technically you
Point
could get an
taken.
opinion of title by an attorney, a title attorney, or maybe you can do it, Barry. I'm not sure if you do that particular part of work that could address whether or not there really is any merger here or access, ability for that to be combined. There isn't with just this one lot, but I think when you start creating 2 lots that have undersized square footage, you have a different situation. And
I think just based on discussions with my client, everything has been through, I'd rather proceed as is. If he wants to, we can look into that issue separately down the road. I mean, it's only going to behoove him if he could do that, but the immediate issue can be resolved by what we have in front of you tonight, again, subject to the planning board's endorsement.
I'll vote for it. So it'll be 4-1. But it's got to be with the planning board approval.
That's part of the motion.
Right. All right, thank you. Did I hear,
But I think we had a,
you are meeting?
I
Oh,
think
thanks.
we had a problem
Are you meeting on the 15th?
Yes.
Meeting on the 15th, okay.
just for continuance.
All right, okay.
No, the whole thing to me, it's a unique situation.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
never
but
had it
not-
in 28 years.
I think
Somebody even,
I had it once before,
Yeah,
and I think it was with All the Way,
where, sure?
All the Way.
Oh, yeah,
And that was to come from I think Vanston Road out to Park Street,
oh, yeah.
and it, I'll go through.
All right, good night, folks, thank you.
Don't thank us until the planning board approves it.
I'm not gonna play engineer anymore.
Okay, we have one more case, and I'm definitely gonna ruin these names. Zoning Board of Appeal, Town of Stoughton, notice of public hearing. Public hearing will be held in Town Hall, Conference Room B, Room 301, 3rd floor, 10 Pearl Street, on October 1st, 2015, 7:30 PM on a petition of Georgios Weezer.
Georgios.
Say it again?
Georgios.
Georgio.
It's a long name for George.
Okay, George. Doing business as St. Anthonysius Central Street Pizza, case number 4163 for a special permit under the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw of 1970. As amended, Section 5D, Table of Use Regulations, Principal Use, Retail and Trade. Item number 3, Eating and Drinking Places, including alcoholic beverages, Inc., etc., in order to operate a gourmet delicatessen and pizzeria establishment located at 37 Dykeman Way, further identified in Assessors Plan 90, Lot 93, in an industrialized zone in said Stoughton. Any person desiring to receive further notice concerning this petition as provided by the general rules of the zoning board of appeal should file a written request containing his or her name and address with the board. Petitioner or his representative or any other persons desiring to be heard in this matter should appear at the time and place designated. Sherman Upro, Chairman, was in the Stoughton Journal September 11th and September 18th. And let's see if I have a nice letter from Mr. Sadow.
Yeah, we have it.
We do?
Yep.
I don't.
I just saw it.
Doesn't make a difference.
This one?
Yeah, that's probably it.
It just gives him
His lawyer wrote it for him.
Just gives it permission for them to apply for the.
JLS Realty. To whom it may concern, I, Joel Sadow, owner of JELS Realty at 37 Dykeman Way, Stoughton, Mass. What the heck? 02368. Did we get another? Give my consent for Mr. Weezer of, St. Athanasius to get permit rent at 37 Dykeman Way, Stoughton. Thanks, Joel Sadow. At least he hasn't changed.
Okay, motion open case number 4163.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to waive the reading of the abutters and take the answers to question 8 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, George.
See all of you, thank you so much.
Come on up and tell us what you want to do.
Come on up, sit in one of these chairs.
Absolutely.
What do you want to do?
Just run the business as it is. We'll keep it up and increase the business as we can, and we hope we make it.
Mr. Sadow going to do anything for you?
He's a nice man to deal with, so we're hoping he's gonna be that way.
The dumpsters, where are your dumpsters now? Oh, they're dumpsters. They were
We only
supposed,
saw the place from inside, but the dumpster is outside.
Yes, outside.
Outside in the whole plaza. So he owns a furniture place as well.
oh, I know what he owns.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Is it toward the Avon side? Or is it the dumpster I'm talking about?
Dumpster.
We
He
have-
knows better. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have dumpster outside.
Yeah.
and
What
we
is
have-
it?
We have two dumpsters, one for creation, one for oil.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Is it on the side of the current pizza place or on the side of Blinds to Go?
Yeah, inside the pizza place.
No, انت بتطلع من المطعم فين وبرا.
Can you show us on this plan? Can you point to it on this plan?
BB8 قدام الشمال ناحية الفرنيشر بليس يعني؟ Okay. That's the mattress. That's the deli. So it's on when you go out of the deli, which is the restaurant. You make a left. That's where the dumpster will be on. بعد الفurniture.
Yeah.
So it's where
Just
the,
you have to pass the whole furniture place, and then the dumpster will be on the at the corner of the
It's
plaza.
a bar.
Blinds to Go?
Sorry.
Draw a circle where it is.
it's not going to
No,
make any
it's not
difference
on
because
there.
he's not going to do it anyway.
It's behind that.
Okay.
I know what he's like.
Anyway.
Out here, and then you pass the furniture place right here, and then the mattress factory. After the mattress.
Oh, so it's out in back?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the
Oh,
back,
all
yeah.
right.
Hall.
Huh?
That's a hall. You
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
walk out with all the trash all the
Oh.
way over
It
and
used,
around.
it used to be out front toward the Avon side,
Yeah.
and he was supposed to have a fence around it, which the fence disappeared along with the shrubs.
LES.
You gonna work the same hours as what's there now?
You have a place now?
What is it?
You have a deli now?
We don't run it yet. We just,
No, I mean, what's your experience?
he is a very experienced, and he worked in France, for 4 years on the same topic. And he worked here for 5 years, different places. He was running the, place he was working 2 weeks ago, as a manager, on Norwell. So he had a good experience of running a place like that.
And you guys are partners?
We are brothers.
Brothers, the three of you? And what are you gonna do for them?
I am gonna run the paperwork and help a little bit in the cashier and here and there.
Okay, you know what the old conditions were?
Well, it's
Okay,
the
here,
same-
let
it's the
me
same
read,
thing.
let me read these to you.
Yes.
Hours of operation shall be between 6 AM and 11 PM, 7 days per week for both takeout and dining in. Table service shall be limited to the number of tables and seats shown on the plan submitted and on file, which is incorporated herein by reference not to exceed 34 tables and seating for 64 people.
64 people, yes, sounds right.
The decision shall not be interpreted to grant relief that was not specifically stated in this decision in a manner inconsistent, you won't understand that. You have to be able, you have to do what it tells you here when we grant the decision and we give you a decision. But give them a decision, so it's.
The remaining ones, 4, 5, and 6 are our standard ones. We'd have to update the dates about
Yeah.
expiration and lapsing, but
Yeah,
What was the date of that one?
13, May 1st to 13.
when do you plan to open?
Well, we're gonna take over the previous owner, so once we have, we're almost done.
Is it still in operation right now?
It isn't, he is in operation. He is the one running the place, the previous owner.
It is?
It is
That's
running.
still in
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
It is running. It
No,
never
no, no,
stopped.
that was my question. I
I'm
just didn't
sorry.
understand.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are you going to start working for him and then eventually you'll
He
own
is,
it?
yeah,
or-
he's kind of like getting his hand on
Okay.
the restaurant already, but not taking over the place yet.
So there'll never be a period of time where
Nope,
there will be a
no
lapse in
stopping.
business?
No stopping at all.
It's just going to, the paper will go through and now you guys will be the owners?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
We probably don't even need condition number 6 then, because there won't be a lapse. I guess, but it's not, then it won't matter if we put it in. Condition 6 talked about a lapse in the permit if it wasn't begun on or before a certain time after it was issued.
No, definitely will be just, once he's out, we are running the place already, so not gonna be stuck.
So I feel like this has come before us at least 3 or 4 times since I've sat on this board. And even though I'm starting to have a long period of time with this board, that's a lot to me, this
Was that-
particular site.
This particular business,
Yeah,
I noticed that too,
okay.
and I'm aware of that, and we're taking our chances to make it this time. I guess he's making good business. I'm not gonna say we're gonna be
Always.
perfect, but he's running a good business right now. We're gonna keep it that way, and we try to enlarge it a little more.
Anybody got questions, Sean?
No.
Mine have
How
been
many
answered.
parking spots are there, do you know?
How many for the restaurant itself? I'm not sure, but it's a lot of parking lot for
It's a
the-
big.
He
it's a-
has
it's a
plenty
real
of
big
parking, that's the
lot,
problem.
No, I know the site well. Curious if you know.
Make good
But-
food also there.
He asked about experience, I don't, no questions.
I'm done.
Steve? Dan? No questions?
So you're buying it or leasing it?
I'm buying the restaurant from the
They're buying
owner
it.
of the restaurant,
You're
but
leasing
the
from Joe?
leasing
it's gonna
from
still be-
Joe.
Make sure you get everything in writing.
Thank you
What's
so
the wish
much
of the
for
board?
advice. I'll take that.
Doesn't make any difference anyway.
It does.
No, it don't.
I make a motion, we grant a special permit for case number, we
decision.
draft a decision to grant a special permit for case number 4163,
There a second?
with the existing conditions still in effect.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What'll happen is, we'll try to have a decision written by the 15th. We'll vote on it, hopefully vote on it the 15th, it'll get brought in on the 16th. And then there's a 21-day waiting period to see if anybody fights it.
Yeah, may I ask a question? We applied to have the selectmen meeting on the October 6th. Is that gonna be any problem, or can we still going for that? Okay.
No, go right
there's
after
no
it.
effect on us.
Okay.
And you can tell them we are writing the decision to
Okay.
grant,
Okay.
so that you'll have it.
Thank you so much.
All right?
Are we all set?
Yeah.
You're all set.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sherm,
Yes.
the only reason I asked about the parking, very shortly, Joel's coming up here to put a drive-through Dunkin' Donuts in that parking lot. I was just curious if they had an idea how many. I would never mention it to them, but obviously Joel never.
Where?
Huh?
Where?
Okay, you're looking at you're on Central.
Yep.
Okay, you look at the building where his restaurant is. On the right-hand side, used to be junk cars.
Yeah.
and a trailer. He got rid of most of the junk cars, and he's clearing that area. And the Dunkin' Donuts that used to be across the street. Your old station?
Mine.
Wasn't that yours?
Oh, that was Henry Schneider's.
Okay, Henry Schneider Station. Dunkin' Donuts approached Joel. They want to close that Dunkin' Donuts at the gas station and bring it across the street, because in the morning, everybody's going to
Right.
24.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they can't bang, and they can't bang a U-turn, get coffee, and then bang another U-turn to get on 24.
They don't wanna have them in gas stations anymore, cause they're not profitable.
Oh, really?
They wanna do the standalone locations.
He's gonna have to build the building.
Oh, is that why
He's
they
gonna have to come
closed all
before
the
us.
stores?
He's gonna have a lot of
Yeah, there was a
problems.
big thing on the
I
news.
saw the plan, the Dunkin' Donuts,
Oh, I don't care.
no, I know.
There are times it can be involved, and there are times it's a little.
I don't blame him. Okay, we have a few decisions.
Motion open case number
Wait a minute,
4158.
let me see who wrote this.
Oh, wait a
Okay,
minute.
this was Steve.
I wrote one of them.
Did you write the Tri-Town Common ones? So obviously you read both
I
of them
read
then.
them both.
Okay.
So, but Tri-Town Commons, this is just their sign variance.
This is
Town
yours.
council's writing, that one's mine. Yeah,
Oh.
see, I told you the trick. Town council's writing the special permit one.
Okay. Motion open case number 4158.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to grant the decision as written in case number 4158.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion open case number 4160.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to grant the decision as written in case number 4160.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Getting good now, he just passes one page at a time.
Yeah, that's easier.
Right. Plus I have to take all apart because I write upside down anyway, so
You left-handed?
I am.
And I just gotta make sure I put the right ones together.
Yeah, exactly. You'll have Mary screaming at you. No minutes?
Yeah, some minutes. Oh, this is my crap. Oh, we have minutes from August 8th, August 6th.
Those are the ones that you wanted to go over?
These are
I
you
think?
revised.
Yeah.
Oh,
Motion to accept the minutes of August 6, 2015 of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I just made it so I sign it.
Good.
What? No, the town council has it.
I guess I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay,